Hello everybody, I would like to welcome you to our fifth video in the Pre-Algebra playlist. And in this video, we will go over dividing integers. So what do I really mean when I say dividing? Or what does it really mean to divide something? Now, one of the best ways to think about division when you're just beginning with this concept is to think about it in terms of Legos or shoes or basically anything that you want to, okay? Now, what really helps me with division is to think about it in terms of Legos. So what do I mean by this? Let's say I tell you to find the answer of what 15 divided by 3 is. This symbol right here represents division. So going back to our original question of what 15 divided by 3 equals, think about it in terms of Legos. Let's say you have 15 Legos, and at the same time, you have 3 containers. Now, once you're done playing with your Legos and containers, your mom or dad asks you to clean up after your mess and put those Legos back into their respective containers. When thinking about division, think about it as separating equal parts of something. So basically, if your parent tells you to put 15 Legos into 3 containers, you really need to think about how many Legos will I need to put in each of these 3 containers so that each container has equal number of Legos. Here's one verbal way of thinking about division. How many equal parts will there be? How many Legos will I put into each of those 3 containers such that each of those container has equal number of Legos? And so you might think about it for a second, and since this is a simple example, let's work through it. If I put one Lego in each box, how many Legos will I have? So if I put one Lego in each box, I will end up with 3 Legos in total. Now, since 3 is not equal to 15, I cannot put one Lego in each box. Let's say I put 2 Legos in each box. If I put 2 Legos in each box, how many Legos will I have? Well, I'll have 2 Legos that I put in each one of the box, and since I have 3 boxes or containers, I multiplied by 3. And since you already know that 2 times 3 is equal to 6, I'll have 6 Legos in total. Now this doesn't work out either because 6 is not the same as the 15 Legos that I started off with. So let's try 3. So if I have 3 Legos in each box, how many Legos will I have in total? So I'll have 3 Legos that go in each one of the containers. I multiply it by the number of containers I have, that is 3. And so I'll have 9 Legos. And since 9 is not the same as 15 either, that doesn't work out either. So let's try 4. So if I put 4 Legos in each box, I think you get the next step, which will be 4 times 3. I end up with 12 Legos. And since 12 is not the same as 15, my answer is still not correct. So let's say I have 5 Legos in each container. In this case, I have 5 times 3, which gives me 15 Legos. And since 15 is exactly equal to 15, I found my answer. So basically, I need to put 5 Legos in each of the 3 containers in order to give me my correct answer of what 15 divided by 3 is. So let's do one more example with division before we get into rules and some examples that are more complicated. So in this example, let's move away from Legos and let's focus on something like, shoes. So let's say I wanted to figure out what the answer to 12 divided by 4 is. You can use a similar approach, such as the Legos approach in the last page, or you can mix things up and think about it in terms of shoes. So let's get started. If I say I have 12 pairs of shoes that need to be equally divided up into 4 shoe racks, how many shoes will I need to put in each rack such that each rack has equal number of shoes? So if I have 12 shoes, or 12 pairs of shoes, and I have 4 shoe racks, how many pairs of shoes will go in each rack? So let's start off by saying 1, okay? So if 1 is the correct answer, then 1 times 4 will give me 12. So if I say 1 pair of shoes in each rack, how many shoes will I have in total? So since 4 is not the same as the 12, that's not the correct answer. So let's move on to the next one. Let's say I have 2 pairs of shoes in each rack. So 2 pairs times 4 racks gives me 8 pairs of shoes. Since 8 is not the same number of shoe pairs that I started off with, that's not the correct answer. So let's move on to the next one. Let's say I have 3 pairs of shoes in each rack. So I'll have 3 pairs times 4 racks to give me 12 shoe pairs. And since 12 shoe pairs are the exact number of shoe pairs that I'm looking for, my answer will be that I need to put 3 pairs of shoes in each rack so that it fulfills my answer. Therefore, 3 is the answer to 12 divided by 4. For now, I would like to go into a few rules that apply to division, and those rules are similar to multiplication, so they shouldn't be too hard to understand. So on the next page, here are the rules. So the first rule tells me that if I'm dividing one positive number by another positive number, my answer's sign will always be positive. The second rule tells me that if I'm dividing a positive number by a negative number, or if I'm dividing a negative number by a positive number, my answer will always be negative. The third and the last rule tells me that if I'm dividing two negative numbers with each other, then my answer will always be a positive. So now that you understand the rules for the sign of the answer when it comes to dividing integers, I would just like to go over a few common notations that are used in textbooks and standardized tests and pretty much everywhere else when it comes to dividing integers together. So here they are. The first one is the one that you have already seen in this video, and it's this division symbol right here. The second one is simply a slash, and the third common one is a fraction bar. Now let's see a live example of how to use these notations properly. So if I want to say that some number is being divided by another number, one of the three common ways I can write it is this over here, this over here, or this over here. Now let's do a few examples in which you actually find the answer to division problems. So here's my first example. I want to find what the answer to 25 divided by 5 is equal to. By now, I think you should be growing out of the Legos and the shoes example. So I'm going to teach you a more simpler way of directly finding the answer to division problems. So anytime you have one number being divided by another number that yields a third number, it's possible to write it in this format over here. What you need to do now is to figure out some number 3 that when you multiply it with number 2 gives you your first number. So what I mean is this over here. Therefore, in order to find the answer to 25 divided by 5, you need to figure out some question mark so that when you multiply it with 5, you get the original 25. So basically, what number do you need to multiply 5 by to give you 25? If you try 1 over here, that doesn't work because 1 times 5 is 5, not 25. If you try 2 over here, that doesn't work because 2 times 5 gives you 10. If you try a 3 over here, that doesn't work because that gets you only 15. If you try a 4 over here, that doesn't work because that only gets you 20. And finally, if you try a 5, that kind of does work because 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So here it is. 5 is your answer. Let's do a few more examples. Let's say you want to figure out what 24 divided by negative 4 is equal to. So what you want to do now is that you want to find the answer to what 24 divided by positive 4 is equal to. Once you find the answer to this question over here, you can refer back to our rules for the sign of the answers when it comes to dividing integers together, and then figure out what the sign of the answer will be. So proper way of setting up this problem over here is by figuring out what number when you multiply to 4 will give you 24. So you can experiment on your own, pause the video for a while and figure out the right answer, and realize that 6 fits this number criteria over here. So 6 is your answer. But now, since we are dealing with a negative, we need to refer back to our sign rules and realize that since we're dividing by a negative number and the number that we're dividing is a positive number, our answer will have a negative in the front. So negative 6 is your final answer. Now let's do one more example. Let's say you want to find the answer to what negative 32 divided by negative 8 is equal to. One of the first things that you need to do is completely ignore the negatives. So what you want to do is you want to first figure out the answer to what positive 32 divided by positive 8 is equal to. Now you set up the multiplication aspect of the division problem, such as this over here, and figure out what number would you multiply by 8 to give you 32. You can pause the video until you figure out the right answer. So the correct answer in this case will be 4, because 4 times 8 gives you 32. Now, is it 4 or negative 4 is the question, because you're dealing with negatives in the original problem. But positive 4 is the correct answer, because when you refer back to the sign rules, you notice that when you're dividing two negatives with each other, you will always end up with a positive number. So positive 4 is your answer. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a lot from it. The next video is completely dedicated to doing harder examples with multiplication and division. So I hope you keep on working hard, and I'll see you in the next video.